You may be wasting your life away, living in a moment that doesn't exist. What am I talking about? The great Lee Rusan that used to play for the New York Giants came to our schools in Arkansas when I lived there, and he spoke one time, and I'll never forget what he told the students. He said this: the past is history, the future a mystery, but today is a gift. That's why they call it the present. If you are living in any moment but the moment of now, you're wasting your time, you're spinning your wheels, you're either living your life on repeat or you're living for a future that does not even exist, when you could be loving every minute of your life in the only moment that really exists right now. And right now, I'm going to tell you exactly how to do that. Let's get into it. I'm Jim, y'all, and I share this kind of thing all the time. If it helps you on your journey, subscribe below. I'd love to have you along for the ride. Also, if you need some help on your journey one-on-one, there's a link on how to work with me there as well. How do we learn to live in this moment? There are 3 quadrants that every single person on this planet live in. You are living in one of these quadrants right now. We're going to break them down and talk about why we do that and how we do that and what it does to our life. The first quadrant is when we live in the past. Some of you are living in the past. You have all of the stored up guilt and shame and stored up lack of belief in yourself and a belief about how things work or don't work, maybe in your case or in your life right now, and you cannot escape that. As Joe Dispenza would say, you are taking yesterday and you are placing it on today and on to tomorrow, and you are living in a loop, living the same life you've always lived, and you feel like you can't escape. You feel like you can't change your destiny, that you can't live the better life that you feel is out there for you, and you don't understand why. It's because, did you know that the average human has about 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day, and about 90% of those thoughts are the same thoughts that you thought yesterday? For most of us, the average people, we're taking yesterday, we're placing it on today, and this day we're living today, we're going to do it again tomorrow. We're going to live on repeat. We're going to live on a loop. We have a dryer downstairs in our laundry room, and it's older. And do you know what we have to do when we wash anything bigger, like a blanket, a quilt, or even maybe a large load of laundry? We have to run that dryer, take it through a cycle, and then we have to crank that dial back, and we have to run it all over again and repeat the process because it's older and it doesn't heat up the way it should. It has to do laundry on repeat. A lot of you are doing laundry on repeat with your soul, with your life. You're caught up in thoughts about who you are and what you have the capability to do or what you do not have the capability to do, because you believe a system of thoughts that you've believed your whole life. A lot of those thoughts were pre-programmed into us, is what Dispenza would say, by the age of 7 years old. That's when you're kind of taking in all the information you take in about life, and your program is kind of set, and maybe you've stayed in those lines all through your life, and maybe at times you've even tried to change it, but you couldn't understand why it didn't change, and you're stuck in that, what he would call your familiar past, and you're living that past out every single day, today, tomorrow, the next day, on end, and you're stuck in that loop. The quadrant many of us live in is the quadrant of the past, but the good news is you do not have to live there. You can escape. You can leave that all behind. The second quadrant that a lot of us live in is the future. For a lot of us, we live in the future. You're worried about how you're going to pay this bill. You're worried about if this job is going to work out, if this relationship is going to be the right one, if it's going to fall apart. You're worried about why things have not worked out the way you thought they were going to work out. And if they haven't worked out yet, then how are they going to work out down the road? You've got this big obstacle ahead of you. You've got this thing out in front of you, and you're worried about all that. And you're living in a state of fight or flight, or freeze, as they say. In other words, you have all this cortisol pumping through your body. You're living in a state of stress because you're always anxious. You're always worried about little things and big things. Do you know sometimes anxiety is brought on not about just the big issues of life? Most of our anxiety is about the little issues. When am I going to have time to rake these leaves behind me? Little stuff like that gets in our mind, and we roll it over and over, and we live in this state that our bodies were designed to be in for just a few minutes at a time, so we could escape that lion in the jungle. We could either freeze and hope he doesn't see us, or we could flee and run away from him, or we could fight and try to take the lion down. Your body's designed to do that, but it's not designed to stay there. And for the average person in today's society, we are living there in fight, flight, or freeze. And you've got to escape that future. You've got to escape that focus on that kind of future. Now, some of you guys are like me. I was able over the last couple of years to rewire my brain and escape my fight, flight, or freeze lifestyle that I used to live, but I've always been a bit of a futurist. Now, I found out that, yes, I've held on to some baggage from the past, and I have other videos here about how to let that stuff go, and I've done some of that. But as I began to transform it and change it and see I could live any life I wanted to live and began to shape and create the life of my dreams, what I realized is I began to get caught up, and although it was a good future and a future I was excited about and a future that could be greater than anything I've ever known in my life, I began to look only towards that future. I started to try to find my happiness, and when this gets here, then I'll be happy. And guess what? That got here, and for a moment I was happy. And then when the next thing got here, then I was happy for a moment, and then I was looking for the next high and the next thing. And some of you are living like that. That's also a way that we can get stuck in that quadrant of the future. I heard the great quarterback Aaron Rodgers in an interview the other day say he could pinpoint the moment his life really changed, and he gave the exact time and date of when the Green Bay Packers won the Super Bowl. And I was living here in Wisconsin, so I remember it well. And he said when he won that Super Bowl, he didn't feel the exhilaration and the joy that he thought he would. He felt this feeling of, is that all there is? What's left for me to do? And he began to sense this dread, and he began to flip the switch in his life and look at what it really meant to live, and to turn inward and find his peace and his joy there. And his life started to change after that, and it's changed ever since that. And you can do the same thing in your life. We tend to live either in the future or we tend to live in the past. Which one of those quadrants do you feel like? Tell me in the comments that you are most apt to live your life in. Maybe it's like me, it's a combination of the both. But you're in one of those two quadrants probably more strongly than you are the other. But where we want to live is in this third quadrant, and that is the only quadrant, strangely, that really even exists. And that is the quadrant of now. That's what Eckhart Tolle's book is called, The Power of Now. It's about figuring out how to live in this moment right now. When you stop, put on the brakes and think for a moment, what is the only moment you ever really experience? Now, right? You're only experiencing now. The future, as Lee Roussan says, is a mystery. The past is history. That's gone. That's not a reality anymore in your life. The future, we don't know what it's going to be. It's unwritten. You don't know how it's going to work out. Even if you think you do know how it's going to work out, you just don't know. All we really ever have is now. And when we begin to learn to operate in the power that is now, this present moment, if you begin to find your peace and your purpose and your happiness in now, you begin to say, I'm not going to look back to the old me, to the regrets, to the shame, to the guilt. I'm not going to look back even to the old successes, because those just leave me empty. I'm not going to look forward. It's okay to look forward and anticipate the future and build a future and be excited about a future, but I'm not going to find my happiness there, because happiness does not come from chasing anything. Happiness is an inward reality that you can have right now, today. When you get out of those two quadrants, the past and the future, and you get in to the quadrant of now, guess what's going to happen? You're going to start to find your happiness as you pursue the things that make you passionate, that make you joyous, that make you energetic right now. The key to being happy right now is to do that thing that you would do for free, to do that thing that brings you joy, that you lose track of time when you do it, whatever it is for you. And it doesn't have to be anything big or world changing. Maybe you like to do adult coloring books, and when you're doing that, you're in the moment of now. Guess what's going to happen when you start to do adult coloring books? When you start to do, if you don't know what an adult coloring book is, it's like coloring for adults with dots and pixels and all these cool little things, and a lot of people find it relaxing. But I'm saying something as simple as that. When you find that thing that you lose track of time doing, do that, and guess what's going to happen? You're going to pull your brain, you're going to pull your body, you're going to pull your mind, you're going to pull your soul into the only moment that exists, and that's the moment of now. And guess what happens next? Creativity starts to flow. The real you starts to surface and come out. The real joy that is inside of you that's been trapped for so long begins to wash out the past guilt and shame, the past regrets. It begins to wash out the future anxieties and worries. It begins to wash away the future desires to find that next level for your happiness. It washes all that away, and it brings you into the power of this now moment. The way this worked for me in my life is I love to do what I'm doing right now, share content like this with you guys. I love to help you on your journey. I love to help you one-on-one if you prefer to do that. But that brings me passion when I'm able to do that with people. And when I'm doing things like making these videos right now, that's when I'm in my zen. Even when I'm editing these videos, getting them ready for you guys to watch, that puts me in a place of zen. Do you know what takes me out of that? When I start looking at the future and thinking, I wonder how many views this one got. I wonder if this one's going to trend, if it's going to go, if it's going to blow up. And I'm living in a place where I'm chasing happiness. Don't chase, attract, as they say. And how do you attract the life you want? You live in the quadrant of now. Tell me in the comments, what quadrant are you most apt to live in? Where do you spend most of your time? And today I want to challenge you to begin to move from that quadrant and to find something that you're passionate about, something that brings you joy and you lose track of time when you do it, and put yourself again repeatedly, daily, in right now, and you'll begin to change it all. I promise you it works. This stuff can change your life, and I hope this has helped you today to do just a little bit of that. I'll see you guys in the next video.